Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Hypernest podcast. During our episodes, we talk with ambitious Web3 founders about their challenges, about their struggles, and most of all, about their epic wins. I am Alessio, core team member of Hypernest. Hypernest is an accelerator DAO that supports Web3 startups, giving them resources and guidance. And today, I'm very happy to have here Filipe from Crowdclass. Crowdclass is revolutionizing the online learning using NFT. And in my opinion, this is a beautiful application of NFT, a fantastic technology I think that we're still discovering. So welcome, Filipe. Tell us something about you and about Crowdclass.
Hi, Alessio. Nice to be here. Hi, everyone. And yeah, maybe just telling just a little bit about myself. I'm Filipe. I'm Portuguese. Living in Lisbon, one of the Web3 capitals of the world. I was actually born in Porto, where I studied. Did computer science. Actually, never coded after that, but always been working on tech environments, but also educational environments. I have been in the startup world for many years. Worked on marketplaces, on SaaS, and actually last year I entered into the Web3 world, joining a protocol as head of ecosystem. That's kind of where I entered the rabbit hole, started to see all the potentials of this technology, and earlier this year, together with Bruno, my co-founder, we decided to launch Crowdclass, mostly because we are very passionate about education. I had an educational startup about 10 years ago, on trainings and workshops, and we were always very interested on how these two worlds could collide, the Web3 world and the educational world. And that's how we came up with Crowdclass, which essentially our vision is to create what we call a user-owned certificates and credentials network, that allows public recognition of everyone's learning skills and achievements in a trustless and independently provable manner, because currently, nowadays, there's still a lot of lack of recognition of learnings and skills and achievements in many different settings. You might go to an online course, an event, a workshop, and you don't really get any recognition or visibility or proof of learnings on those achievements. And there's also quite a big challenge even on academic settings and corporate settings, which is certificate fraud, that can also be addressed with on-chain solutions. And yeah, so that's our vision with Crowdclass. And to start, what we're building in our new product is basically a tool for educators and schools to easily create and send digital badges and certificates as NFTs that are owned by the student, that are provably verifiable already, and that they can go somewhere, show it, and that person knows that those skills are valid and verified. So yeah, in short, a little bit about me and Crowdclass. That's
Thanks a lot for the beautiful intro. I love I love your product. I love what you're building. And let me try to understand if I got it correctly. So on one side, so this NFT certificate can help with somehow engagement. So I know that I will receive it. I might be more motivated to finish even an hackathon or a specific online course.
Yeah.
On the other side, and I think this is starting to become really revolutionary, is creating a sort of online credentials, because I might have, a set of soul-bound tokens, so non-transferable NFT,
Yep.
that are essentially describing my skills, because I've done that specific course, the other course, and the other course, and all together they create somehow my online profile. If we extend this specific concept, we are building online credentials, right? So something that represents me on
Yeah.
chain, and correct me if I'm wrong, I can use these credentials potentially to apply to some job, or apply to some task, or being considered for, maybe an hackathon of super expert, and so on and so forth. So am I going the right direction?
Yeah.
Am I interpreting your product pretty much in the right way?
Yes, you are, and yeah, and you mentioned the engagement side and the credential side, and that's a good point, because that and we actually have these two concepts on Crowdclass, which is badges and certificates, right? And digital badges are usually on the context of a course or on a learning experience, are usually things associated with some kind of gamification, engagement tools that maybe you want to incentivize specific behaviors, like great participation in classes, great shares, active mentors. So you can incentivize specific behaviors or specific micro achievements, like maybe you have a course on Web3 and you celebrate my first NFT or my first wallet, So you can associate those digital badges to those micro achievements or micro behaviors, usually in a way to boost engagement, exactly like you said, and already prove that engagement in those micro behaviors, and they kind of work more like of a collectible, a cool collectible that you can use to guide you through the process of completion. And then we also have the certificates, and the certificates are usually more associated with a formal completion of a course, a learning experience. They might be associated with some kind of also um, formal assessment or project, and then you can add all these metadata to these certificates, like what skills are associated with it, uh, what was the assessment done, how was the assessment done, is there any grade, right? And yes, all of that will be associated with your identity in as tokens with metadata associated, which can then help you, as you said, later in the future apply to jobs and prove them on chain that you have those skills, that you acquire those skills in those specific settings, right? And that's one of the things why we are betting on tokens, uh, and because the tokens is a digital primitive, right, that allows you to then create further utility on top of it, right? So you can create maybe gated experiences for the engagement side. So for example, in the future you might want to have an AMA or a new course for students that acquired specific badges or certificates, right? You can easily do that with tokens. And maybe you want to open up a job where you need a specific certificate to apply, and again you can easily set that up too. So yeah, so that's how we see it, and and you're seeing it in the right angle too.
Okay, I think it's definitely fantastic. So I do believe that, but correct me if I'm wrong, that those badges or also certificate will be non-transferable, also called soul-bound.
That's a good point, um, and it's not completely set in stone that they will be soul bound tokens, uh, and, um, and that's because we 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 are still trying to understand uh, the exact impact of soulbound tokens, and how they will actually be used, and we're kind of trying not to navigate the hype of SVTs that currently exists, because there are still some issues that we see with soulbound tokens, um, especially because of the transferability within your own digital identity ecosystem. Because the way that we view and think on things is that um, your digital identity might not be in the future tied to a single wallet, and it's very common even nowadays. You have everyone, not maybe everyone, but maybe you and me, we have multiple wallets, right? And maybe we have a cold wallet where we keep our most sacred things, and maybe we have maybe one cold wallet for our coins, and a cold wallet for our certificates, one cold wallet for our NFTs, and maybe we have hot wallets that we use to interact with the dApps, right? And maybe the wallets that I'm using to interact with the courses to claim these badges and certificates might not be the same where we store it, right? And so we're still trying to evaluate what's the best way um, to address this, and so we're still looking at soulbound tokens a bit from afar, trying to understand how they will evolve. And currently they are the tokens that are issued with Crowdclass, they are typical NFTs. um, um, and But we are looking at soulbound tokens. We are also looking a lot at and that's more something that we are more keen into, which is things like zero proof um, uh, knowledge and zero proof identity to add to these NFTs. Um, but we're still not completely sold on the Solvon tokens, if that makes sense. Probably it's not a common opinion, or it's actually, but yeah, that's how we see it, if that makes
I
sense.
think that I have two ideas regarding that. So on
Hmm.
one side, one possibility could be to limit the transferability. I don't know if it is even possible, but I definitely believe that it's possible to
Yep.
build if it is not there. So limit the transferability to a set of key that you own.
Yeah.
So essentially, you can still move your NFT, but only between the specific address that potentially you can sign, or that you own, of course, the private key.
Yeah.
On the other side, and this is more related to that kind of, let's say, institution, organ, or protocol that would accept these
Hmm.
online credentials or NFT credentials. One possibility would be that they just give you the possibility to submit more public address. So if I have an NFT here, an NFT there, or I have an NFTs in 10 different addresses, because this can happen and it's already happening also to me,
Yeah.
you can just
Yeah.
submit
See.
more address and say, okay, these 5 address or 10 address represent my whole identity on chain. So it is something that can potentially also
Yeah.
mitigate this problem.
Yeah, exactly, and we're much more keen on, and we've been thinking about that, right? Again, it's how can you uh, um, set and define your digital identity, um, and and then manage it accordingly to your needs, right? Um, and yeah, that's something that we're still trying to understand what's the best approach, right? But we are much more keen on solutions like those that you mentioned, right? Okay, if there is a way for uh, the student, the owner of the certificate, say, okay, these are my set of wallets, right? The, and and because I can provably uh, and I can prove that I own these wallets, then the NFT or the token or the certificate can travel within those, and it's still valid. That makes much more sense than just locking um, the token to a specific wallet and be soul bound forever, right? Um, but but yeah, we're looking at all of these possibilities. At the stage that we are still more focused on developing the product and the interactions. We are currently running a private beta with a few instructors to help us um, um, fine-tune the full experience, because it's also very important for us. But as we get closer to going public, we are also going to start looking more into what's the best solution to address this, right? And in the end, one thing that we also envision is that with this difference between digital badges and certificates, right, to also have allow the issuer to say, okay, this is a certificate, this is a formal certificate, this proves an achievement or a skill, so most likely should not be transferable within the identity of this person. But this digital badge maybe can be transferable, because maybe it's some kind of reward that I give that gives access to a prize, and if you want to share it with another person, maybe you want to do it. So we want to keep things open to the different needs, and when it comes to limiting transferability, we're still trying to look the best solution, and that's why I said we're seeing closely how these things like soulbound tokens evolve, decentralized identity evolve, proof of zero proof knowledge evolve, so that we can see which ones will be the best solution for us.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, at least giving the possibility to the instructor or the organs of the institution anyway, also to decide eventually what can be transferable, not transferable, and so on and so forth. But during our discussion, I was having another thought that probably, is projecting us a little bit far ahead. But I strongly
I love that.
Exactly. Probably is not, in the scope of the next release, but I think that the proof that we have now, the certificate that we have now, are actually very broken to a certain extent. So if you want to check how can I prove that I have a specific master's degree? I mean, I can send to you what my university gave to me, but in the end of the day, it would be very difficult for another institution to validate that specifically is not, it is valid, it is connected to me, and actually they can use it, as a proof. We know that we had a lot of problems also in the past. For example, the top management, as far as I remember, was PayPal. There was one guy that didn't have, the certificate, in particular the master degree that he was claiming.
Yeah.
So I think that this NFT certificate can address, this specific issue, and I also believe that this would become the standard.
Me too. Absolutely.
So I think that you are positioning in a wonderful spot.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely, and we think it's the way to go. I've read a recent study and survey that was done within admissions and admissions offices in several universities in the UK, and 75% of these admission offices could not distinguish between a real certificate and a fake certificate, which is a lot, right? But then some of these, so from the first contact, right? Then there's an entire process of certificate validation that you have to contact the other institution to check if the certificate is valid or not. And on this, and several institutions went through this, but this is already a big pain. And 14% of the institutions admittedly said they don't do these checks. They just accept the certificate. So, and this causes the situations that you mentioned, right? And one thing that NFT-based certificates can definitely do is, again, between a certificate, there's a issuer, a receiver, right? And then there's the person that evaluates the certificate. What the NFT can tell you is, if I say that I studied in a university in Porto and they issued it as an NFT, if you are an admissions office from a university in Belgium or in Italy or whatever, if I come and show you that, it's provable. It's provable in an independent manner without you having to need to go to my university to ask, hey, can you confirm if Filipe actually was there or not? That primitive, that digital primitive, the NFT, has that information and proves it, right? And this is very powerful. Also, this is very, very powerful again to address fraud, to address um, certification fraud, to speed up a lot of administrative processes that exist all over the world, right? And in in a sense, again, if we go really, really far away, the way that we see it is that even health records, or that maybe you go to a doctor's appointment, or recently we always had to show these COVID tests, but maybe, or maybe you start going to practice a sport and you need to have a medical exam or a medical record, right? If those are issued in an NFT manner, again, you can fight fraud and proof and authenticity already at the source, which is really, really powerful, right? So that's how we see it. I think this is a very interesting way to see the world, and a very good application of Web3 and the technology behind it.
I strongly believe it. I strongly believe it, and I was thinking that it can be as easy as a whitelist, say a list of a specific contract address. So, for example, let's assume that I need to have a specific master degree in rocket science. Okay, so and in order to apply to that specific job, so in the end of the day, the check would be if the NFT that represent this master degree owned by the applicants or the candidates has been issued by this whitelist contract address that represent the university that all over the world have recognized exam and recognized degree in rocket science, then I can accept that specific candidate. And can be quite fast and also quite easy to implement in a Web3 space.
It is absolutely, absolutely. It's that easy, and then you can even add technological infrastructure to speed up that process, right? And it can be permissionless in a sense that if different institutions are using different technologies, that's fine. All they have to do is read public data and public information, which is the NFT and the way that is said, right? So yeah, I'm absolutely and completely with you on that vision, and that's kind of um, how we envision ourselves um, to go over the next 3, 5, 10 years, if you think long ahead.
Fantastic. So thanks a lot for participating in this bird view discussion. Now, I propose to get back to the Crowclass now, or at least in the past few months. So we are interested in really discussing with the Web3 founders about the epic wins, but also the struggles, right? Because the struggles are very important. It's what make you, first of all, a strong founder, a strong company. And we believe that it's so important from other founders to listen and to learn from the struggles of others. First of all, for empathy. So very often we are struggling with the same thing. And second, also because, a founder can tell you, you know what, we were in the dark forest and all of a sudden we were able to find the light. So if I need to ask you to mention maybe your top struggle from Crowdclass in the past or right now, what would it be?
I think the we had a couple of struggles maybe in the beginning trying to find exactly the direction that we wanted to go. It's always very normal. There's several ideas. There's several assumptions that you start to need to clarify them, and as we were speaking with people in the industry, in the market, but possible users, you kind of start to realize a few things that are maybe aligned to your assumptions, maybe not, and you just have to keep navigating. And definitely one recent struggle that I think many are finding at the moment. Many of those don't want to talk about it, but it's actually fundraising, right? Fundraising is we are on a different market that we started envisioning Crowdclass in the beginning, in the end of last year. We started working actively on it by the end of February, March. That's when we kind of officially kicked off the project, and the entire market perspective changed a lot, right? The public perception of Web3, blockchain, Web3 changed a lot, and that affects again fundraising and public perception, right? So we uh, we have been working on improving our positioning, on keeping ourselves lean, and also being very focused on a message that solves a problem that everyone can understand, right? And it's uh, it's kind of a struggle navigating through all these waters, but at the same time, I think it is helping us a lot on maybe when I think on the beginning of Crowclass, we have this very uh, hype based narrative, very Web3 narrative um, around, certifications, but also learn to earn and a lot of these things. And now we have a positioning and a narrative that is much more focused on real world problems. But it actually evolved because of the struggles that we were finding with the change of the narrative of the entire market, right? But so yeah, I think uh, these are kind of the struggles that we've been finding, is being a being a new Web3 company at this stage is currently challenging from a perception perspective and from a fundraising perspective, because the market is a little bit cautious overall, uh, if that makes sense.
It does make sense. So essentially, there was a super hype. I mean, I was there, and I remember that at that
Yeah.
point there were the founders that were trying to dodge money because they would see they were essentially sending them
Oh, absolutely.
money. It was very difficult for them to navigate. We raised the last month. We are going to raise again at the three times the evaluation in 1 month. What did it change? And it was, I think, a little bit too much, I guess, too. And now we are a little bit in a different situation where we have a lot of Web3 founders. Actually, the amount of startup and the amount of development is actually at all-time high. But there is a little bit of decrease in founding, and therefore there is obviously a little bit of divergence. Things are decoupling a
Yeah.
little bit. So we have many more people building, and there are a little bit less money flowing. And you, as
Yeah.
many other founders, are somehow, not rethinking, but at least reshaping a little bit, at least their narrative, to make it a little bit more factual, a little bit more grounded, a little bit more problem solution
Yeah.
oriented. And it is,
Yeah. Absolutely.
I
Absolutely.
believe it's a struggle, but I also believe that to a certain extent is good because we are going back a little bit to the utility and a little bit less on the speculation side of things.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. It is a struggle, but it's the struggles that I like. Be for me again. For me, what we're actually seeing is the back to normal, right? Because So yeah, I was on a Web3 protocol last year, but before that, I worked uh, 6-7 years in startups, in business development and in leadership positions, and it was hard. You know, the day to day was really really hard, and that was what we were expecting. And I think last year people got used to easy, though we had easy days, and I saw them. And I can speak for myself. I slowly on my end started to expect easy days too, you know. And it is what it is. We were all within that hype that you said, but now it's kind of there's a mark there's a market healing, right? And again, it's in the end it's back to the fundamentals. It's uh there's problems to be solved. um there's problems that Web3, blockchain, crypto can be great solutions for, right? Let's focus on that, right? Let's also focus more on on usability, on bringing real users. And so I think these struggles that we are going through are in the end helping us recenter a little bit. And again, they are struggles, but it's nothing new. I'm again, maybe for people who were mostly used to the last year market or the last 2 years market, maybe it's a bit changed, but I've been around for more than 10 years, and this is actually more common than the last couple of years. So now we are just navigating them as best as we can.
I like that. I like this vision. It's almost like going back to the waters that you know best, right? So there was
Yeah.
shallow water, but you were used to a wavy ocean. So,
Exactly.
nice.
Exactly. I like the waves. I like the waves. I like the stormy sea. That's where I was born.
Always thinking about Nazaré. That for people that don't know it, is a
Yes,
place in Portugal where you have the biggest waves, probably in the world. Correct me if
in
I'm
the world.
wrong.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. The record, the Guinness record of the biggest wave, and the biggest wave surfed is in Nazaré. It's like 33, 34 meters high.
Yeah. I was checking the videos of those guys. I mean, they should be, crazy or visionary or probably a mix of both. Surfing those waves is
Yeah.
just incredible.
Yeah.
Okay,
Absolutely.
I love this parallelism about surfing big waves, being ready, when the ocean become a little bit less unfriendly to navigate them. Yeah. And
Yeah.
on this line, so what would be from your side your suggestions or your tips to maybe first time founders or founders that were essentially in the golden era that was just essentially one year ago essentially, and to fundraise. So how can they succeed in that?
Um, that's a pretty good question. I maybe don't have the best possible answers. I am fundraising myself. I can just maybe tell the way that we are looking at it, right? And um, we we are looking on a couple of ways. First is having some kind of a war chest, right? And I understand that maybe several people don't have it, but we do have some funding. We also have our personal resources, right? We consider that our war chest, right? And we have that really really well planned for the upcoming 12, 18, 24 months, right? And that's kind of it's your survival mode, right? And first focus on that, because that will give you a runway to learn, to try, to fail, to try again, to get knocked down and get up again, uh, and, um, and again navigate these waters. The second one at this stage, I think it's focusing on, um, even if you have a very big problem, right? That you want to solve, try to find what's like the quickest short and shortest path to adding some kind of value, right? And focusing on building that first, getting some kind of traction, usability, usage there, some early validation, because that will give you a lot of leverage when you will be talking to investors and saying that, okay, this is our long-term vision. This is our already early signs of validation that we have, right? And the reason why we're asking for money is not because we need it to survive, because you have your war chest, that's okay, but because we are confident that we can get from here to there, and we want partners along the way. And we have been showing that we found something that can get us there, and now we want partners to help us speed it up. And then if you go with this conversation, it's a very different conversation, that you can that you can have. And also, uh, uh, this is kind of other thing that, again, and this is how we are thinking about it. This is not necessarily tips for anyone. It's basically how Crowdclass is thinking on it. Is like, how can we get profitable too, right? How can we not need investors along the way, right? Because uh, the less you need investors, right, the easier will also for you to get them later on.
Yeah.
Right, it's and that's kind of how how we are thinking. So in a sense, is focus on keeping your war chest. So plan your finances very, very well, especially your expenses. Be lean, be frugal, don't overspend, um, plan accordingly, um, build the shortest path to value as possible to start getting some kind of traction, validation, assumptions, and start thinking on how could you possibly finance yourself with what you're building without needing investors, even if it's 100 times slower than if you have investors, even if it's painstakingly slow. The reality is, because the market is not hot, so you also don't need to be in a hurry. So, and if you don't need to be in a hurry, solidify your position. That's again, I wouldn't call it tips. I'm calling it the way that we are thinking about it, and then it's up to the whoever is listening to to take them as advices
But
or
I
not.
think it was a wonderful description, to be really honest. You started with saying, okay, maybe this is not the best tip, but I do believe that those are very, very good tips. Working with founders for a long time, what you mentioned is really
Yeah,
the formula to make it work, right? On one side is really being frugal, calculate your runway, don't throw events and spending $50,000 just because we are in a bull market and we know that this was happening over and
yeah,
over. Then make sure that you have maybe a huge vision, but create really early usable progress, get some traction, show success, and then this will help you to convince potentially your investors, to give you money, because you're already doing good. You just need some additional superpowers to get there, right?
yeah,
And I think this is also
exactly.
a fantastic strategy, maybe the only strategy. And I loved also the last part, like planning, like this money are not coming or will never come. So be ready to bring home revenue, instead of postponing these
Yeah,
these moments forever, and being ready of not needing, VC money. Because if you are ready for that, as you said, it will happen, the opposite, that the money will come because
yeah,
your company is already working, it's producing revenue, maybe it's even
yes,
profitable. Let me say this word. Uh, the
exactly.
money will come. So I think it was a wonderful description. But now let's also discuss about Happy Queen, because the struggles are obviously the background uh, music of certain periods. But on the other hand, there are also amazing moments of lights that also deserve celebration. So, what would you say is
Yeah.
the an amazing achievement that you had in Crowdclass?
That's a good question. I think our path has been mostly around several micro achievements that we've been having that is are making us push further. I think our next major achievement is when we will release in public. But I mean, I think one of the epic wins that I can say is that when we were accepted to the Techstars Accelerator, it was definitely a big validation for us. It was, and being part of the Techstars Accelerator gave us confidence, gave us contacts, gave us connects, and gave us access to their demo day. So it was it was for us, based on the stage that we were, right, which was very very early. We were almost at the idea stage, and having that acceptance was a good idea validation from there, right? And then several micro achievements that we've been having, right? The fact that uh, we are starting to work with schools and organizations. We started initially just thinking on individual online educators that would probably be the ones that would kind of think about our offer, or maybe only very Web3 native people will understand it. But starting to speak with private schools and other and even deans and academic directors in universities, that although they don't really fully understand the crypto world or the Web3 world, they see value on what we're doing and want to work with us and pilot with us. All of those things are kind of like um, micro achievements that for us um, externally might be small, but they are all actually epic wins. Every time you have a conversation when you feel that you have one step closer, or you grew 1% more, or you had one step further. In our stage, all of those small steps are epic wins, somehow. And more recently, we just released our product in a private beta. It's we've been we've been working all summer on it, and now it's finally live, and we are starting now to onboard more users because of that, and having more feedback on the product because of that. That's also the closest, the epic win, which is the stage where we are.
I really love your discussion about small or micro wins that are in the end at this stage epic win, and how it is important to
Yeah.
recognize them. It is important to share within the team, within the forming communities, because
They are, and that's also it comes very closely to what we also believe with Crowdclass in the concept of digital badges and certificates, right? Imagine that you do a 6 month course, right, and all you get is the final certificate, or maybe you do a 4 year university course and all you get is that final certificate. You had several epic wins or micro wins along the way that are not celebrated, that are not visible, and digital badges allow for that, and so thinking on this way, it's very ingrained within ourselves, and actually on the products that we're developing.
that makes a lot of sense, and I hope that more and more um, online learners, but also founders, will embrace this specific perspective, because just waiting for the super big win when you maybe you raise your B round, or when you cross the
Yeah.
10 million MRR, I think it's a little bit too much. It is necessary also to keep going and stick to your vision to celebrate day by day. Let me do one step
Yeah.
back, because I believe that many of our followers, our listeners, would be interested in your tech start. So, how you said you were very early. right? And I believe that many people want to get into Techstar. What do you think would be, what's your formula, or what was your superpowers to get there? How have you been accepted?
Um, that's a good question. I think it was a mix of a couple of things. One is one is our team. I think our team kind of made a very big difference, because the founding team is all we are all very senior people. We um, and this is not to say that young people are not powerful. They are, but usually we at least have kind of a career and a background to show on our achievements and growth, right? And that kind of was shown throughout the conversations we had. So, and the way that we were thinking about business models, strategy, growth, even how Web3 can be applied to real world problems, kind of shown up. Um, Second, also, of course, uh, the idea and the early signs of traction that we were showing, right? Because again, it it is there's still some novelty on connecting the world of education and the world of Web3, right? And we also benefited from a little bit from that novelty, right? And again, this is just me assuming. Probably need to ask the guys at Techstars in the end, but the advice is that I tell. I mean, and it also comes back to maybe speaking with investors and so on and so forth, right? In the end, maybe if we were just, and again, I don't want to say it in a bad way, but if we were just another DeFi protocol, right, we would probably need to be on a further stage to be accepted at a good accelerator, right? Because there are so many others in the market, or you either have a really good team and a really good differentiated idea. Um, because in the end, what accelerators want, they want to catch the earliest of the ideas even before investors. That's also what they do. So if they see a great driven team of people that are there for the long run, that are going to make it independently of how the idea changes, and if they are looking to play in an interesting space, and if they have founder market fit to that space, right? On our team, I come from an educational background. I was a trainer. I had an educational startup about 10 years ago. Bruno is a full stack developer. Back then, we also had Mario too with us, and he was a great marketeer. So, if they see a great team entering into an interesting space, right, and with that drive to make it happen, independently of how things go, I think that creates a big impression in uh, in accelerators in general, because that's what they want to give you. They say in Techstars that they want to give you like 1 or 2 years of boost in 3 months, and that kind of happens in 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 a sense. So yeah, so that's kind of the what I think I say. I don't think there's magic formulas, in and sometimes you have to just keep trying, because timing sometimes it matters. I mean, there were people on our cohort that weren't accepted um, uh, before, but the second time they applied, they are already showing that, hey, we're still here, you know. We're kind of cockroaches. We make it happen. We survive, and we are committed to this, right? And that's again, and you can speak better than that regarding what accelerators look like. But my understanding is that accelerators look for people first, and early stage ideas to then push them further. Um, so that's kind of uh, how I feel we we got to be kind of selected. But in the end, there's a lot that we don't know too.
I mean, absolutely. I mean, I can definitely confirm, in the world of accelerators, in particular when you are very early stage, right? Because you told me you were not very advanced with your MVP or everything. So in the end, what do? You just bet on the founders because
Yeah.
yes, there is obviously a part of, there is novelty. Maybe it's a blue sea, the so-called blue sea. So it's an interesting idea that solves a real problem, and there are not so many, and there is not so much competition. Obviously, this works, but on the other hand, the team make the difference because as you said, even if yeah, the idea, you can pivot a little bit your idea, you can reshape a little bit the idea considering the market condition, considering the priorities, considering I want to build first what can provide some traction. So experienced founders usually have the possibility to pivot. They basically stay on their track. They're dedicated, and as you know, they plan. For long-term success, as you say. Right? I have my war
Yeah.
chest. I have my. We have our resources. We are planning for 18 months, maybe 24 months of runway. I think that this
Yeah.
is what early stage VC or also accelerator are looking for. So brave founders, sometimes with some years of experience under the belt. Obviously, this create much more confidence, in help them to move forward.
Yeah. Yeah.
A questions related to changing a little bit topic, more related to the technology. So now there are a lot of chains, L1, L2, L0, speculation about L3 with zero knowledge proof technology. Would love to get there. Uh, what chain did you decide to, if you have a decisions already, what kind of chain, what kind of protocol, and why?
So currently, um, we have our MVP in Polygon, uh, and we are starting to develop on year two, uh, and uh, 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 and those are currently uh, the the chains that we are looking to support, uh, and over time we're not sure. Polygon, because it's an EVM based solution. It's from the EVM based solutions. It's kind of uh, the most well used. It's the one that OpenSea, which is kind of the main native NFT. I wouldn't even say market, because I would say NFT visualizer. People see NFTs in
Yeah,
OpenSea, right? We are not we are not focusing on the trading part of the NFT, but but easily seeing the image, the metadata, the information. Actually, you can do that on OpenSea very well. So we started with Polygon, because of that. Now we're going uh, to build on Near, and explore further Near, mostly because we are very impressed on their vision, regarding usability. Right, there's technical elements too of the chain itself, that, to be honest, I'm the worst person to talk about it, but I'm very concerned with usability because, again, um, in uh, uh, in the end, we want to focus everyone, not just Web3 natives, right? So onboarding is a very important part, and Near has a particular focus on user onboarding, on wallet usability. Uh, on they are now calling a lot the Web 2.5 transition um, step, and so uh, we are building on Near, mostly as a way to onboard new users. So if you are a student that that you still don't have a wallet, that you are still very confused about what these uh, NFTs are, for us having a very simple login, create wallet creation process, everything is critical for us, and we found the near approach very interesting, and that's one of the reasons uh, why we are extending it to support it too.
I think, in my opinion, is a very strong bet. I think both of them, Polygon and Near, are creating, an amazing technology, and at the same time, also the focus on the users, on the community, and in general on the value creation. So if we look at Polygon,
Yeah,
the ZK EVM, zero knowledge proof technology
yeah,
L2, I think it will be super strong because it's very strongly compatible with
yeah.
with Ethereum.
They are pushing forward a lot the Polygon
Yeah,
ID.
yeah, there will be Polygon ID, and also they also have many other solutions like Nightfall and so on and so forth, or even Avail, for data availability. On the other side, also Near, I think it's also have a super strong technology. I think there is the last update that will be on, I think it's called Nightshade, but I might be wrong on that. So that essentially enable, extreme composability between, different chain on Near. And I think also these will open up
Yeah,
to many applications, many amazing applications. So I think that you are in a very
yeah.
amazing spot with Crowdclass, with your decision.
Yeah, thank you. Let's see how it goes over the upcoming months. Um, but yeah, happy to keep you posted
For
on that.
sure, for sure. I mean, we will maybe ask you additional information in the near future. From something that often our member of our community or founders ask us is, how do you did you get a grant? And if you did, how did you make it work from Polygon and from Near?
uh, we uh, we got a grant
Hmm.
from Near, um, um, and again we applied. We shared them our vision on how we we see credentials and certificates as the future of an open internet. Uh, we, we share them our vision on why we like uh, Near and would like to develop on Near, right? Uh, and that we would like to uh, again to partner with them in some way, right? Because a grant is always a partnership with the foundation somehow in in helping uh, them grow their network, right? While at the same time they help us also grow our user base, grow our community, right? And and yeah, so the way that we positioned ourselves is this: look, uh, again, at this stage, we already have things to show, right? This is what we're building. We want to build this on Near. We want to build this for your community. We want to onboard your community on ours. We want to onboard future users using Near technology because we believe, based on the studies that we saw, that it's a pretty good user facing and usability focused technology. So that's kind of how we positioned and, and and went from there.
That sounds great. Okay. Do you want to? I think we had a very wonderful conversation. Do you want to add anything else? What
Yeah.
do you want to add about, the future of Crowdclass, or maybe something about any tips, additional tips for new Web3 founders?
Um, I mean, Well, for Crowdclass, we just released our private beta. We are happy to engage and onboard founders, and instructors, educators, event organizers. If you are looking to for ways to create and send digital badges and certificates for your activities, again, whether they are courses, events, meetups, community gatherings, and you want to do it in an easy way, we can help you with that. So just come to crowdclass.com and sign up for the private beta, and I will be more than happy to speak with you. So maybe I can leave that open. And yeah, tips for Web3 founders. Again, build your war chest, like I said earlier. Focus on existing problems and focus on your conviction, and that will pay off. That's what we also strongly believe.
That's fantastic. It's an amazing closing. We will also put the website crowdclass.com in our comments, so it will be easier to find.
Cool.
Yeah, and I want to thank first of all Filipe for the wonderful conversation, and
my pleasure.
To all the community, all the listeners that are following the Hypernest podcast. If you want to participate in the Hypernest podcast, you will be able to apply. You can contact us, via our website, Telegram, Twitter, and in the near future we will have a dedicated landing page to apply. And other than that, join our community at Hypernest XYZ. It's our website, and you find all the additional information. And get ready for our next episode. So thanks to everyone, and thanks, Filipe.